The word as in Jude 7 indicates that verse 7 is a continuation of verse 6 because the subject of this sentence is not only Sodom and Gomorrah but also the cities around them. We need a comma after the word them. Thus, Sodom, Gomorrah, and the cities round about them are the subject of the sentence. The predicate is as set forth. Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities about them are set forth for an example. Between the subject and the predicate, we have the modifier in like manner. With these, gave themselves over to fornication and went after other flesh. To whom does these refer? It refers to the fallen angels mentioned in the previous words. What does in like manner mean? It means in the manner of going after other flesh. The fallen angels went after human flesh. Sodom, Gomorrah, and the cities about them also went after other flesh. This means that these cities followed the example of the fallen angels. They did not invent that kind of fornication, but followed the fallen angels who invented it. Sodom, Gomorrah, and the other cities were followers. The angels were inventors. At this point, I must say a word, especially to the young people. Marriage is a holy thing. God instituted marriage in order to maintain the human race which He created for His purpose. No one should consider the matter of marriage in a loose way. We all must approach it as a most holy thing. Hebrews chapter 13 verse 4 advises us to respect marriage as being holy. There is a strict principle regarding marriage, the principle of one husband for one wife. God has ordained this holy principle in order to keep the human race in a proper condition for the fulfillment of His purpose. However, at the time of man's third fall, the subtle enemy came in to break the holy principle of human marriage by his fallen angels, taking human bodies to marry human females. This violated the principle of marriage that protected the purity of the human race. This illegal marriage of fallen angels with the human race not only broke the principle of marriage, but polluted the human race. What was the devil's intention in doing this? His intention was not only to corrupt the human race, but also to pollute it to such an extent that it became a mixture of humanity and fallen spirits. The angels, the fallen ones, set up such an example of breaking the principle of marriage. Sodom, Gomorrah, and the cities about them followed this example, breaking the governing principle ordained by God. Now we can understand why God determined to flood the human race and condemn them all to death. God decided to do this because the human race had become a mixture. Now we can also understand why God burned Sodom, Gomorrah, and the surrounding cities. When, as a young man, I read about the flood, the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, and the slaughter of the Canaanites, I did not agree with God. I say, is a God of love? How could a God of love do such a thing? How could a God of love flood people, burn their cities, and slaughter the Canaanites at the hand of the Israelites? I say to God, God, you are not fair. Don't you think that the Israelites were sinful too? Why did you destroy all the Canaanites? How can you say that you are a God of love? Eventually, God said to me, Child, haven't you seen that before the flood, the human race had become a mixture? I couldn't keep such a mixed race on this earth. I had to eliminate it. Don't you see that among the Canaanites there were the Nephilim, proving that the Canaanites were no longer a pure human race, but had become mixed with the fallen angels. I had to exterminate them. At that time, I bow myself and say, Lord, you are God. I worship you. You did rightly. If you read Jude 6 and 7, you will see that the fallen angels invented illegal marriage, breaking the governing principle of marriage ordained by God, and going after other flesh, after human beings. That invention set an example which was followed by Sodom, Gomorrah, and the surrounding cities. In like manner to those angels, those cities committed fornication and pursued after other flesh. At a certain time, there were some angels that who had fallen to such an extent that God intervened to judge them. When did this happen? We must apply it to Genesis 6. causing a mixture of the human race with the fallen spirits and producing Nephilim. This illegal marriage between fallen angels and the human race produced Nephilim, the mighty men which were of old, men of renown, in 6:4, were a product of the fallen spirits mingled with the human race. Although the King James Version uses the word giants in Genesis 6:4 and Numbers 13:33, the Hebrew should be rendered Nephilim. It is translated this way in the American Standard Version. The word Nephilim means the fallen ones. G.H. Pemble, in his book Earth's Earliest Ages, says that it probably refers to the fallen angels. However, the Nephilim were not purely angels, but were the products of the mixture of the fallen angels with the daughters of men. They were the product of the mingling of the human race, that is, human blood with angelic spirits. According to the Bible, the Nephilim were men of a great stature. If you were to look at them, they would threaten you, and you would be frightened. That is exactly what happened to 10 of the 12 spies sent by Moses to explore the land of Canaan. They saw the Nephilim and were terrified. They told the Israelites, "We should not go into the land, for we saw the Nephilim there." The Nephilim which they saw should be again the descendants of the fallen angels that had mingled with the daughters of men. The Nephilim were giants, capable men, men of renown. God sent a flood to exterminate Noah's generation because the blood of that generation had become impure. Likewise, God slaughtered all the Canaanites because the Nephilim again were among them, and the blood of that race again was no longer pure. God could not tolerate that situation. For the sake of the fulfillment of his purpose, he could not allow such a human race to exist.